And we're live for the Mayor's Update on April 20th. We have a very special guest. We'd like to welcome Chief Herridge from the St. Thomas Police Service. Chief, welcome to the show.
Good evening.
Chief, it's great to have you on tonight. This is incredible that we're able to do this after a small amount of technical difficulties, because this new 6:30 time zone for the show doesn't give us a chance to be ready ahead of time. Although we like being finished early, this getting ready early has been a tough time for Graydon and I. Chief, thank you for joining us tonight. This is a great show where we share a forum with the citizens of St. Thomas to talk about city issues. And certainly some of the things we've been talking about lately are police services related, or maybe shouldn't be, but are police services related. So, Chief, thank you for coming tonight. And I want to start off with, Chief, we've known each other probably 20 years in the city of St. Thomas. Just give us a quick thought from you as to what's the policing differences 20 years in, knowing the mayor, but knowing me from back then. Policing was significantly different 20 years ago in this community.
Absolutely. First of all, I just want to say, Mayor, to you and Graydon, thanks for having me on tonight. And Mayor, you and I have had plenty of conversations, both privately and I guess publicly as well, and about these issues that are impacting our community and the change that both of you and I have seen over the past few years. And I want to take this opportunity. I see someone is saying hi to me there in the chat box. So hi back to Tim. I hope all's doing well. 20 years. I'll take us back to first when I started in 1989, and our downtown. For one thing, because that's where I started to cut my teeth, was downtown walking foot patrol, and that's what we did back then. I walked foot patrol since I finished OPC in May of '89, all through the summer, and we had a vibrant happening downtown. A lot of people there, public, tourists, businesses, things were booming. And then skip ahead to today, we've seen a dramatic change in our downtown, which is, I want to say this because I want the public to know as well. I mean, I talk with my colleagues across the province, and St. Thomas is no different than a lot of downtowns and the issues that we are facing in St. Thomas, whether it's Stratford, Woodstock, North Bay, Sault Ste. Marie, Cornwall. A number of my colleagues talk about the issues. And just last week, we were in Toronto, chiefs and deputies, talking about the issues in policing and the social deterrents of health that's impacting our downtowns across the province was a hot topic to discuss, and how are we going to deal with that. And so I've seen, Mayor, just like you, we've seen a dramatic change in our downtown. Obviously, some of the big box stores on the East End now, past First Ave, that has an impact on our downtown as well. But I want to say as well, it's not, we have issues in our downtown, and I just want to say this right. We don't have a violent downtown, and I want to assure the public, yes, we do have some incidents that occur in the downtown, but we have incidents that occur all over the city as well. When these incidents occur in the downtown, it's not like it's just one central area of our city that has a number of issues. What we have is a lot of behavioral related issues that's caused and impacted by poverty, homelessness, addictions, and mental health. And that's what's impacting our downtown and our services. A lot of the services are in the downtown, just like most municipalities.
Well, Chief, and you're right. We're not talking about anything different from other communities of our size, or certainly even larger communities. We're talking about what can St. Thomas do. And as you're right, we've had a number of conversations lately about, we're getting ready for the summer. I remember this same conversation last year about this time, and the same year, the year before. As we come out of April and into May, and people are coming back out onto the street, there's certain things the city has to do. We install a cleanup team to start taking care of the winter litter and ensuring we get everything swept up shipshape, and put out the summer patios and the trash cans and some other things. But you as a police service also, in the conversations we have, get ready for the summer also. People are out and about more, and certainly out and about later. And so tell us, some of our preparation for what the summer looks like in St. Thomas, and of course, mostly downtown.
Well, as you know, Mayor, a couple of years ago, and this is kind of a collateral fallout from COVID and the school program being paused. Our officers involved in the school program were redeployed to foot patrol in downtown. And that's had a big impact. What happened 30 years ago, predominantly foot patrol has come full circle, and we are doing foot patrol again, and that's our focus in the downtown, and where the people are in the community as well, whether that's at a hockey game, at a community event, seniors day in the park. That's our focus, to have a presence for police officers. This year, we understand and we're listening to what's happening in our downtown. We're talking to merchants in the downtown and downtown development board, and we're going to start a new community resource unit, and that's going to be 4 special constables that we are recruiting. Actually, the formal interviews took place this morning, and I'm very happy with what I'm seeing in the applications. Somewhere near 45, 50 applications for this position, or these 4 positions. And our focus, we're looking for people with a social services background. This is not about going downtown and bringing in the cavalry to do enforcement. This is about going downtown to provide the right services from the police service to our citizens in the downtown, those facing vulnerabilities, to build relationships with the business people in the downtown, to build relationships with tourists, and provide a sense of security and safety to the downtown of St. Thomas. I have to say, thanks to you, Mayor. I mean, the city, yourself, and council have done a tremendous job as well. And what you guys have done is made policing a little easier in the downtown as well. And that's bringing in Indwell. That partnership, for me, is amazing. And as I've always said in the past, it's more than just housing. We have to provide wraparound services as well. And when we have those wraparound services in combination with housing, that is, I think, in my personal opinion, the right answer to some of the problems that we are dealing with. We still have to get to the root causes of some of these issues for sure. But we have noticed an 80+ % reduction in our calls for service in the downtown per month since Indwell opened up. And that's one building. You can imagine what's going to happen once 230 Talbot Street, that location is up and running, and the location at the corner of Talbot and Ross, and we get some more people housed, and we get some more people being looked after with the proper wraparound services. I mean, the special constable team, and that's going to be a part of their job too, is help people navigate the systems that they need to obtain for supports, whether it be addiction services, whether it be housing, whether it be mental health services. And it's more than just policing. And this is, again, helping everyone in our downtown, whether it's someone suffering from experiencing a crisis, or a business merchant that needs help, or someone visiting our downtown that needs direction. This is truly, we're getting back to grassroots community-based policing with this unit, and that's our focus.
Chief, I had Minister Clark in town today talking to some of our home builders and talking about Indwell, because Indwell has just opened a facility in his riding also, and talking about the great services that are once we find the wraparound, in Rail City Lofts in our case, and with the new building coming up also, on-site mental health, on-site addiction services, on-site regular health services, on-site housing services, on-site facilities like replacing ID and other things that we need. I thank Indwell for taking the 16 people that we have currently in the Rail City Lofts and putting them in housing for the first time in a long time for most of them. but in housing that comes with that level of support. You can put somebody in four walls, it's not going to help. And I've heard you say many times, look, we can't arrest our way out of this problem either. But I was sharing with them a stat you shared with me about the people, the people we have living at Rail City Lofts now, and kind of the before and after picture that we can expect when we open up 16 more or 60 more residential supportive units in the new Queen Street building that you talked about. He was amazed. He said, wow, can I use that? And I said, of course you can. Indwell's using it. Let's talk about what good it is. Can you just give us a little bit of the we won't hold you to the numbers, but what happens when we take someone who has been living on the street for a long time with a number of other issues besides just homelessness, and we do the right thing?
Well, you know what? We do the right thing for those that need assistance. And I always say this is not about lessening the demand on policing. Is it a side effect? Absolutely. Do we need to do that? Do we need to pay police officers to deal with some of these calls? No, we don't. There's a better way of doing business. If not, if we don't figure out that better way, the cost of policing is going to go up. And as I have said publicly before, that is not the answer. Policing is too expensive to deal with this. What we need is people like Indwell, CMHA, addiction services, boots on the ground in our community to help people facing a crisis, whether it's addictions or mental health. The collateral fallout that we're experiencing, if we don't deal with this, is property crime. Because if someone is experiencing poverty, homelessness, a substance use disorder, they're going to resort to property crime to survive. And then that drives up your property crime. So what's happening with Indwell is, and you know the stats, and the reduction in calls for service, that is also a reduction in property crime in our downtown. Because if I'm getting help for being homeless or having a poverty issue, and I have food, clothing, and shelter, the basic needs of life, I don't need to go out and commit crime to survive. Addictions, we need wraparound services, we need opportunity, we need support. The justice system, and you and I have talked about this, Mayor, in the revolving door, we just can't filter people through the justice system in one door and out the other without some sort of support if the person is involved in the justice system because of social determinants of health. If they have an addictions issue, let's get that person addictions support. If they're doing a break and enter or stealing something because they're going to sell that property so they can get cash to buy drugs to support their substance use disorder, and we just put them through the court and put them on probation or 30 days in custody without any support, we're just back to ground zero and we're spinning our wheels. And that is not the answer. And I've said this many times. We don't wake up every day, or we're not born in this world with a substance use disorder or a mental health disorder. We don't ask for that. But that happens. And it's not just a certain segment of society. I can certainly tell you that. People from all walks of life are impacted by some of these social issues. So we need to find support. And I know, Mayor, you've been very public about speaking with the ministers, those at the provincial level, those at the federal level, to get us the support that we need in this community. I just had a conversation with someone today about the, no detox location, no drug treatment court, no withdrawal treatment and management center in our area here in St. Thomas. And those are the things that we need. We were going in the right direction with housing and the wraparound services that's being provided within Indwell, but there's a lot more that we need to do, and we need to be vocal about it together as a community.
Well, Chief, you've heard me say a number of times, and so have our listeners, our viewers. I keep looking in the city's budget, and there's no line that says healthcare, where addictions and mental health fall. I see your budget. I know the same thing with yours. There is not a service that you provide that is healthcare. We've had to work around the fringes with that MOST team and the training of officers to be able to do their job today. They have to know how to deal with addictions and mental health, of course, but it's not in your budget either. And so what we keep talking to the other ministers, whether it's the minister, the Solicitor General, or the health minister, or the Minister for Mental Health, is you need to share with us. We're happy to help if you're able to help us. If you can't, then there isn't something we can do. We'd have to stop paving roads or policing other ways in order to spend the money. So thank you for sharing that. And if you want to add to that, please do.
Well, at the meeting I was at in Toronto last week with police leaders across the province, we recognize, and we're calling upon our provincial ministers we need a provincial model for mental health and addictions. We need provincial funding. We are competing against each other, as you know, writing grants. I'm writing grants against chiefs and other jurisdictions to obtain funding for mental health and addictions, when we know this is a problem right across our province. So let's give our communities the tools. We have 2 mental health workers working on our mobile outreach and support team, our MOST team, and we're having about, I think last year we were just over 2,000 mental health and addictions related calls. They're touching on less than 40% of those calls. Right. That's 2 minutes. That's not enough. We are truly doing a disservice. Our officers do a wonderful job, absolutely.
Yeah.
But they are not experts in mental health and addictions. And we are going to these calls dressed like I am, wearing a vest with tasers and guns and pepper spray and you name it. You can imagine the anxiety that creates when you're dealing with a person in crisis. I always use this example. I mean, you and I could drive down the 401 highway and see OPP running radar, and I still take a double take. And I know what I have my crew sit at, and I have nothing to worry about. So that's giving us anxiety. So imagine what a person in crisis feels like when an officer shows up dressed out in full police uniform in a marked car. We're doing a disservice. Again, our officers do a great job, but they are not trained to the degree of someone that is their career. That is their job. That's what they do every day.
Well, Chief, the other reason I think when we first talked about the MOST team or a street level team, people with mental health training, was also the time that your officers were spending at our local hospital. Somebody's in crisis, we get it. And we want to help as much as we can, and so that we report to the hospital with them. And then your officers were somewhat there for a couple of hours or longer with that person while they're at the hospital. The idea of the MOST team is there could be a bit of a handoff. Our police officers who are really, security officers or police force officers out on the street need to go back out and continue to do their job, and let our mental health support officers be at the hospital with the person who's in crisis. And it helps us with a manpower issue. We're not finding ourselves with our police services stuck for hours at the hospital. No fault of the hospital, one of the best in the world out there, but the officer can't just walk away upon delivering someone there. So that was one of the original reasons that sold me the most on the MOST team, pardon the pun, but it's almost not thought of anymore. That's not the reason. We have mental, right? So we have to continue to bring people back to why we originally did this in the first place. I'll let you answer that. Then I've got just some general policing questions across St. Thomas. We spent most of the time talking just about the downtown. So.
Absolutely. And you know what? We do have a fantastic relationship with the hospital, with STAG. Excellent partnership out there. And they certainly appreciate the need to keep police officers on the street doing the core functions of policing. That's the service that we provide. And we need to ensure that health services provide the service to those persons facing a crisis. And we were 2, 3, 4 hours at the hospital. And now we're averaging in the past 3 years, just over 3 years since we started our collaboration with CMHA, that time is right around the 61 minute mark. And we track each and every time we attend the hospital for a mental health apprehension. We track the cost of that as well. So and every quarter we take a look at it, and then we take a look at all 4 quarters at year end to see what the average is. And we are right around that 61 minute mark, which I can tell you that in speaking with my colleagues around the province, that number is really low. I have a brother-in-law who's a police officer in London, and I know the amount of time that he spends at the hospital in London with someone when they're apprehended for mental health. So we're very fortunate here.
So we're winning. It's exactly what we wanted it to do, and it's happening. Great. But Chief, much like your and my life today, I keep saying that policing of the downtown, or mental health or addictions issues in the downtown, continue to suck most of the oxygen out of the mayor's office. Right? About 80% or 90% is taken on dealing with that issue because it is very visible. It is much, we have to deal with it. But Chief, you and I have a community of about 45,000 now that we have to police. I mean, your job is to ensure that we have police covering all of the city. We have a number of citizens in our city that won't have an interaction with the police unless they choose to do something that makes that happen. And our city continues to grow. How are you looking forward to the planning part of, we say we're at about 45,000 today, and we will be at 50,000 in 5 more years. What does the police chief look at in the sense of the city's growing, what do we do next?
Well, you're absolutely right. I think back to when I started in 1989, and the city has expanded at all 4 corners significantly. And thankfully, we have a supportive council and a supportive police services board. And over the past 3-4 years, or ever since I've been the chief since June 1st, 2017, the city has really taken off. And I don't think anybody can question the growth that we've had in our city. And we're happy to see the growth, but with growth comes problems, and it comes demand on all types of services, including policing. And for the past 3 or 4 years, and as you know, Mayor, I've consistently come to the board with staffing plans, how we keep up with the demand and the focus areas that we need to focus on. And I think we've been doing very good, trying to stay ahead. But a lot of our demand falls back again, to our previous conversation. And when you're dealing with mental health and addiction, and the police are being called to deal with that, I mean, our calls for service have gone up since 2016 to around the 14,000 mark. We're now over 22,000, or just right around that 22,000 number. And a lot of those calls for service have to do with the social determinants of health and the fallout of property crime. And that's a huge demand. But we created a property crime unit, and they're really doing an excellent job as well. And we had our street crime unit dealing with drugs and property crime, and they just could not keep up, and they were just being pulled in many directions. And so we separated that unit to have a focus on the drug issue that we face in our community. Again, no different than every community, and have a focus on the increasing property crime, so that we could deal with that as well. The foot patrol unit is another area that we implemented, and like I say, it was kind of just a nice fallout from some things that happened with COVID, which has led into this new community resource unit of 4 officers in the downtown. And they're going to deal with crime prevention as well, and they're going to have some other tasks to address other than just foot patrol predominantly in the downtown. Where we're always taking a look at where the city is growing. We have a crime analyst here that's taking a look at where crime is occurring, whether it's intelligent-led policing, whether it's hotspot policing. We know where things are happening, when it's happening, time of the day, day of the week, and location. And we focus our supervisors that are in charge of general patrol platoons. They will deploy their officers accordingly to where the crime is occurring, and to ensure that we have a focus. Of course, we have to also keep in mind that we just can't put all of our resources into those locations where crime is occurring. We need to ensure that we have a visible presence elsewhere in the community and that's out in those neighborhoods where crime is less rampant, not occurring as much. But we also want to make sure that those people living in those neighborhoods feel safe as well.
Great. I've taken complete control of the whole conversation tonight, and I know you have a number of questions too. And I don't have my question board up today or response from our viewers today, so I can't see what anybody else is asking. So if you have any, go ahead and share.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, Chief, I just wanted to touch back on when you're saying people are getting released from the court system and they don't have the support systems in place. Who is responsible? Who can we talk to get the supports in place for people who are released from the prison system or the court system back onto the streets so that they don't end up getting back into the system again and being a part of the revolving door that we're talking about?
Well, I mean, obviously, Ministry of the Attorney General oversees our courts here in Ontario, and definitely the provincial, the Sol Gen plays a role in that as well. And provincially, that's where the message has to go with regards to what's happening. But you know what? There's many people involved in this, Graydon, and especially those, not just the justice system, but those that deliver those services as well. And we need to all work together and talk about these issues and how we're going to deal with, you're right, when people are released from custody, that they are released in a direction of supports. Now, we're going to, of course, and we're all not blind to this, there are going to be people that are going to absolutely outright refuse to participate in any services. But there's going to be those that are going to want to participate. And if we don't do something and create an avenue, an option, and as I call it, two streams of justice, a stream for those hardcore offenders that are in the justice system because they are hardcore offenders, and the second stream for those that are in the justice system, like I said earlier, because they're dealing with some sort of vulnerability. That person, we need to focus on everyone in the justice system, absolutely. But for those that are there because of some sort of vulnerability, we definitely need an option for them as well. And that's where we need to continue to do what we're doing, be vocal with, like the mayor has been doing with the various ministries, and be vocal through media, be vocal publicly, and reach out to local politicians so that they can take that message forward as well.
So our provincial minister, would that be someone that we would talk to about this and say, hey, what are you doing about this? Or who in the provincial government is working to help this situation?
Well, I know the mayor and I have met with the Attorney General. We have met, so there's one person. We have met with Minister Tobolo. There's another person. We've had meetings in the past with Minister Jones, Minister Elliott. There's probably maybe we need to get the premier here, Mayor in St. Thomas, and we need to go all the way to the top. But
and as I said, Minister Clark was here today from a housing point of view, and there's a minister that has delivered to our community so much money for social housing, our new shelter, and all of the things that we're currently doing with Inwell, which don't fall into our jurisdiction, except for the housing side of it. And as you mentioned, Minister Elliott, from a health point of view, it's just that it's interwoven so much between this. You and I have been talking about the drug and alcohol strategy and more coming on that from that group. But there used to be a drug court. There used to be kind of I'll call it a mental health court, and that's not the right terminology, but here's a different stream we can put somebody in. From a drug point of view, if you are committing crimes to pay for a drug use, then the judge could find you to rehabilitation. And if you stayed on the track of rehabilitation, you were released to it. And if you didn't, then you ended up serving the rest of your sentence or finishing off. You and I have been kind of yelling a little bit out loud. Yes, let's get back to that before we get back to a lot of other things that may solve some of our drug use. This is one that was in place, does work other places, and we'd love to see it back.
Totally agree, and that is definitely one of the solutions that's required. And I know we're talking about kind of reactive solutions, and we also need to keep in mind that we need proactive solutions. Why are we where we're at right now? How did we get here? What is causing people to end up with a mental health issue or a substance use disorder issue? And those are the things that we need to get down to ground zero so that we're not at where we are now. I mean, and I've mentioned this before as well. Homelessness, poverty, addictions. You could have walked Yonge Street 30 years ago, or Vancouver, or Montreal, the big municipalities, and these issues were there. They were big city issues.
Yeah.
And how did it end up crossing the threshold of pretty much every municipality, across our country? How did we get here? That's what we need to figure out. How did that occur? Because we can't always be reacting to the problem. And that's what we're doing right now. And, housing and wraparound services, two streams of justice, drug treatment court, excellent. To deal with the current issues, totally agree. But we need to stop that from getting and growing into the issues that they're growing in, that we got to have these reactive type conversations to the problem.
Graydon, I'm not seeing questions, so you'll have to tell me if we have anything from any of our viewers tonight that is there for the chief.
We've got several questions coming in. One of the questions from Brett Longfield is, would be curious to hear how service is being tracked spatially, geographically.
So I wonder if we could just maybe get some clarification.
Yeah, we use certain zones in the city, chief, from a crime tracking point of view, and I think that's what Brent is talking to us about tonight. Is there areas of town that have a higher incidence of crime than others, and how do we react to that then?
Oh, we track that through crime analysis, through our records management system, and through crime analysis, I can pull up what we would call something like a heat map showing where crime is occurring predominantly in our city. And I can tell you that if I was to pull up a property crime heat map, as we call it in policing, Talbot Street corridor, a little north, a little south, definitely will look like it's heated up for sure. But crime is occurring in all parts of the city, whether it's north, south, east, west, either one of the corners, either one of the subdivisions. A few months ago, we had a large number of car entries out in Shaw Valley. We've had shed break and enters down in Lake Margaret. We've had crime on the north end up in Delwood. But predominantly, it's more centralized in the city along the 12th Street corridor for sure.
A question about that, Chief. Like, the crime that's happening in St. Thomas, is most of it happening, or is it are people from St. Thomas committing the crimes, or people from outside of St. Thomas coming into St. Thomas to commit crimes?
Well, you're going to have a combination of both for sure, but predominantly the property crime, and I don't want to classify property crime as like kind of lower end or higher end, but just for the sake of an explanation here, kind of some of the lower end property crime is predominantly caused by people living within the city. You do have organized crime groups traveling around the province, and when I say organized crime group, it doesn't have to be the mafia. It could be something a little lower than that. They're just an organized group of people traveling southwestern Ontario, usually if they're doing crime in St. Thomas. And that's kind of your higher end. For example, out in the industrial zone a few months ago, we had some tractor trailer units stolen. And I could tell you that those tractor trailer units were located more central Ontario. And in the same place where other tractor trailer units being stolen in the province of Ontario were being taken. That's organized crime. So it does happen, but those cases are rare, and knock on some wood here, since no my luck that will occur tonight.
Yeah.
But predominantly, locally, our crime is being caused by residents of St. Thomas.
Okay.
We do, as you know, and it's no hidden secret. I mean, London has a big influence when it comes to drugs. A lot of the drugs coming into our city is being supplied from London. I mean, we had 3 or 4 years ago our biggest drug bust ever in our city, and that a significant amount of that drug seizure is taken from suppliers in London supplying people in St. Thomas.
Right. The next question is for you, Mayor, and it's about whether you'll be advocating for supportive housing as a healthcare cost the province needs to help with when you meet with the provincial candidates.
Have already done so. And did more of it even today. Look, Minister Elliott understands, and she's the Minister of Health, that some of the solutions fall under her purview. I don't have a health budget; she does. And so when we're talking about mental health or addiction services, it has to come out of the provincial budget for health more than it has to come out of the provincial budget for policing or municipalities. We've been loud and proud and pretty on topic on this one. And so you're right. I was a bit amazed that Andrea Horvath came to town and didn't meet with the mayor, because I would have been loud with her too about mental health. She said that's what she came for. But look, that's a healthcare issue. It's not a municipal issue. I get it. But it is happening in our city. And so we do want to talk about it whenever we can. And even as I said today, we had Minister Clark here talking about housing, but he gets it. We talked about Indwell and their and how much of what they deliver to a community is healthcare, along with the housing. So I will continue to be that way throughout the election, through the provincial election. But I'll tell you, I've not seen a government like the provincial government we've had in the 4 years I've been the mayor here. Previous provincial governments kind of ended at Mississauga, and Southern Ontario was like it didn't exist. And just in talking to local mayors around us, and the chief does it with police chiefs around us, the attention that's been paid to Southern Ontario in the last few years has been quite warranted, but must continue. So we'll be loud.
Thank you, Mayor. The next question, also from Timothy Hedden, is for both of you. Do you view supportive housing as essential to reducing the need for services and better outcomes?
Well, I already reported, and I'll let him finish this one. I'm not sure I was sold on this one 4 years ago. I knew we had to do housing in it, but I thought it was more from an affordability point of view. But what Indwell's been able to show us from a supportive housing point of view, attaching the wraparound services, as we call it, has been an incredible thing to see happen in our community, with just even the 16 units at Rail City Lofts, the 60 new units that will happen on Queen Street will take up so much more. Chief, your thoughts on that one?
I mean, I've said plenty about Endwell, that's for sure, and I'm sold. I wasn't sold initially because I thought it was just going to be housing, and I spoke publicly about housing is just not the only answer. We have houses in St. Thomas where people with some vulnerabilities are living, and there's a number of problems associated with those addresses because they're not getting wraparound supports, and that was my worry. But Indwell, they came into town. I met with them. They came here. We had a great meeting. I've met with them several times now. They seem to be very decent people wanting to help out. This was new to them. I mean, not the housing piece, but the type of clientele they were going to be dealing with. And I think they're doing an exceptional job. I think it's making a difference. And isn't that a great story that we actually can, believe it or not, we can help people if we have the housing and the right services, and we can help people become productive members of society. The mayor has been saying that for 3 or 4 years now, and it can work. Just give us the funding and the resources to do it, and we can improve our city tremendously.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chief. Next question is about the rumors that other cities are sending people experiencing homelessness into St. Thomas, and whether or not you're seeing numbers that will either validate that or disprove it. To the Chief.
No, people, I've talked to the MOS team, I've talked to our officers because I've been told this, I've seen it on social media, and right now I have absolutely no evidence being provided to me that people are being bussed into our city. What we need to understand is vulnerable people, homeless people, people in poverty, dealing with social determinants of health can be transient. They will move from community to community. Do we have people in our community from elsewhere? Absolutely. But we also have people from St. Thomas and other communities. And the reason I know that is because just like we do here, other municipalities, police services will arrest people on warrants from St. Thomas. And they will call us, and we will go to Windsor, we will go to London, we will go to Guelph, we will go to Brantford, and we will pick up people from St. Thomas that have left our city because they are transient and they have ended up elsewhere. That is what's happening in our community as well. Again, I want to reiterate, I have no evidence that's been provided to me that people are being dropped off by the busload in our city. People are transient, they move around the province.
Thank you, Chief.
You and I know we get this question from time to time, and we keep asking. We have cameras on all of Talbot Street. If you have proof of a bus coming and dropping people off from another community, tell us the time and day so we can look it up. That's a crime. That's kidnapping. Okay, so that's one. We also have with the In Out of the Cold and our social services and Ginny at Grace Cafe, perfect checkpoints. If you were homeless from another community, where would you go once you hit St. Thomas? To our shelter, to Grace Cafe, to our social services. And if we meet someone who truly is from out of town, or it's a stranger from who isn't there each day, one of the first thing they do is certainly review that with the person. Hey, where are you from? North Bay. Would you like to go home? And we'll even arrange the ability for them to go where they have their own personal supports, if that's the case. So it's like a urban myth a little bit here on busloads of people coming to St. Thomas. Well, you've heard it from the chief and you've heard it from the mayor. And if you've got proof, we want it. We really would love to be able to react to somebody. And as I said, we can look it up using our own camera system as to, when it happened and where it happened. If you can tell us. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor.
I mean, we have to keep in mind that we're just 25 minutes south of London, a city 10 times our size. People are going to come here from the city of London.
Absolutely.
And like the old analogy, you build it and they'll come. And we got some good systems and supports in St. Thomas. And there's no doubt people hear about that. And they're going to come here if they can't find support in their own community.
Right.
Totally. The next question is, how can initiatives led by organizations like Indwell be adopted by the wider community, public, private parties, including developers, in addition to the city and its urban revitalization opportunities?
Well, I'll start because we've all heard of some of the issues that Doug Terry group, a great developer group in our community, is attempting to do with the Tiny Hope project and from an affordability housing, even in the core on the railway lands. We're pleased to have developers and other people like that. Look, my biggest fear is with Indwell is they're doing such a good job. Many other communities would love them to come and locate there. The Minister of Housing and I talked about that today. We would love another group like Indwell to step up and say we can do it. We're learning, as the chief has said, we're certainly having all the conversations we can with Indwell as to what works and what doesn't. We can maybe mimic some of what they do in the next phase of supportive housing without having to always use their service. But when their service is turning out as good as it is today, I'm not stopping it until we are ready to do exactly what they do. We don't do that as well as they do, so let the experts do it. Chief?
I totally agree, Mayor. And I can't answer it any better than you just did. The only thing I can add to is what's being recognized in other communities. And not too long ago, I had a chief who I've known for quite some time from another municipality call me up because his council and his police services board had heard what we were doing in St. Thomas as a community, the good things that were happening in our city. And he wanted to know how we were doing it. And like I said, and he knew it was a partnership. We were doing what we could as police, and council was doing their part, and our other partner stakeholders as well. We're all playing a team part in this. And but it's good to hear that the word is getting out there in other communities that, you know, we haven't found all the solutions, but we've found some good solutions to get us on the right path and to go in the right direction. We just got to keep our foot on the gas and not give up. And when I say we, I mean 42,000 people in the city of St. Thomas.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I want to touch on, I want to be respectful of your time and wrap it up fairly shortly for you here, Chief, as well. The cameras that have been implemented for the St. Thomas Police Service. Can you speak just briefly about how that has impacted what you're doing in the community in a positive way?
You know, and thanks to council for their support and the provincial government. They gave us $80,000+ to support that initiative. And it's, you know, deterrence, just like police presence, it's tough to measure that for crime deterrence. It's like having the camera in the downtown as well. Just it's tough to say that it's deterring crime. But what I can assure you is that it's solving a lot of crime. So we just had a couple incidents recently, a couple assault calls, and the cameras, took a look at the cameras, and those cases were solved right away. We had a property crime on the West End not too long ago, took a look at the camera on the West End. We share that information internally and with the public. And you know what, this is a great opportunity. Good question, Graydon, because this gives me an opportunity not only to talk about the cameras and the feedback we get when we post pictures out on social media, but I want to thank the public because we do have such a tremendous Facebook following, and everyone is, you know, willing to step up. Sometimes you got to be careful with the comments and get an opportunity for me to say, please be respectful, courteous, and professional. But our public is so supportive. When we post a picture out there to try and identify an offender involved in a crime, we get a tremendous amount of feedback, and a number of our crimes are solved because of that feedback. You know, they'll put a name to a face, to a picture, and then we'll do some more investigation and try and tie that all together, and it works. It truly does work. So with solving crime, cameras are doing a great job with that. Deterring crime, again, it's like driving a cruiser down the street. That's a tough way. It's a tough thing to measure, put a metric to.
Thanks, Chief. Sorry, I didn't word my question quite properly. You're talking about the downtown cameras and the cameras. I think there's one that's down in the industrial area now, which are up in the city. I meant to talk about the body cameras that the police officers in St. Thomas were wearing.
Even better. Even better.
Yeah, no, you know, the body cameras as well. There was, you know, we had a lot of public support when we started that. And again, our board, our police service board, the mayor, we were outside of Toronto. We were the first in the province to go down the path of body-worn cameras. It's coming. Again, at this meeting last week in Toronto with my colleagues around the province, we all know it's coming. Everyone's starting to get on board. We are actually, Toronto started before us, and at this meeting last week, I come to learn that we are farther ahead than Toronto. We are the leaders in body-worn cameras, digital evidence management in the province of Ontario.
That's amazing.
And a lot of people are coming to us looking for assistance, our policies, how we got it up and running, what we're seeing, the good, the negatives, the learning points. But you know what? A lot of positivity with the body-worn cameras. And we, you know what, here's a perfect example. You talk about transparency and gaining public trust. Yep. We had a member come in and complain about one of our officers. And so we pulled out the body-worn camera. We had the member of the public come back, take a look at it, and completely misinterpreted what was happening. It showed the camera, the footage. Sorry, I'm wrong. I made a mistake. The officer did nothing wrong. Perfect. You know, that does two things. It shows that the officer did nothing wrong, but it also it shows the member of the public that, you know, body-worn cameras work, and that here's an opportunity to show that nothing was done wrong. And, you know, and I got to give credit to that person too. There's a person that, you know, they made an error in judgment. We all do it. We make errors in judgment. We do it every day. Does that make us bad people? That person made an error in judgment. They owned it. They apologized. Thanks to body-worn camera. It was done, and it was done quickly. You know what? And that's the other thing with the body-worn cameras. SIU investigations, OIPRD public complaints. We've had 3 of those complaints solved because of body-worn cameras. Good for the public, good for the police officer, saves thousands and thousands of dollars in investigative time. SIU investigations take 4 to 6 months on average. So you can imagine, not just one investigator either. And then every SIU investigation, I have to do an internal investigation as well. So I have to assign someone from professional standards to do an investigation. So that there's thousands of dollars more. It saves the taxpayers a ton of money. It's a win-win-win in many different ways.
I can say as a member of the Police Services Board, Graydon, that we believe we're almost at the point where body-worn cameras have paid for themselves because of this. No,
Incredible.
No, it was such use of time in the past, or frivolous complaint, or just misunderstood complaints. So I had in my own personal business in the last couple of weeks, we had a reason to call the police, and they came and took the manager's statement using their body worn camera from a digital evidence piece. What a savior of time. My manager doesn't have to go down to the police station and set it all up. It's all just done because the police officer can do digital evidence management on their body-worn camera too. So it's not just about police chasing down a criminal like on TV with their body-worn camera on, and it's an adventure. Okay, great. No, it's about good, fine police work being able to happen in a much more inexpensive manner, and safer for the police officer too.
So it helps with efficient policing? Sorry, Chief.
Sorry, Greg, if I may, just even because the mayor touched on a great point there with regards to recording statements and recording crime scenes as well, all through the camera. And there's no cost. I mean, there is cost. We have to be a part of the program, but there's no storage cost because it's all stored in the cloud, stored in servers in Canada. It's all secured. But a piece that the mayor just touched on, and this is good for the public to know as well. Yes, we record those statements using the body-worn camera. We come back, we dock that camera into the docking station. That evidence is uploaded to evidence.com. And prior to body-worn cameras, it was old school transcription, typing. You know how long it takes to transcribe a statement, and imagine a lengthy statement at that. So with this technology, we have what's called auto transcription. And we are auto transcribing, and I just got this stat maybe about an hour before I came on for this mayor's update from Axon. We are transcribing auto transcription 29,000 minutes a month. So you can imagine typing out that amount.
And what it cost us to have a sit there and do that, right?
Oh, for sure. So the auto transcription is not 100% perfect. They are working on it. Even at 75, 80%, it is saving a ton of time and cost for officers to transcribe statements.
So that's saving you about 483 hours every month. Was it a month?
It was 29,000 minutes a month. 312,000 a year. We're averaging.
Wow.
Yeah, that's in 1 year, and we're still learning the advantages of body-worn cameras.
Yep,
I love the efficiency.
That's why we thought we did it, right? So.
Well, I mean, we always got to try to find ways in policing, and we do it all the time. And I know the mayor can back me up here because we're always coming to the Police Services Board trying to find ways to be cost effective. And I always throw this out, and I don't want to throw my friends in Woodstock under the bus here, but we are $3 million, our budget, lower than a city the same size, a police department the same size, and we're delivering a good quality service to the people that we serve in this city.
But you can imagine the number of minutes that the chief just mentioned, actually as a police officer back in a car, out doing what police officers are supposed to do instead of sitting in front of a computer terminal typing things in. Who wouldn't do that in the long run? We're right. We're growing. We're learning it too. But and as we find things that work a little better from a police services point of view, thank you, Chief, for bringing them to our attention and letting us at least say that'll work and say, Thomas, we can do that. So, great.
Yeah, we're trying. We're working with Axon now to do electronic note taking, so that we no longer have notebooks or rely on our notebook as much. I mean, we have the technology. When we're talking to people, just like we're talking right now, I can record that information. And and dock the camera, and then have it transcribed and have it stored, and have digital electronic notes of my daily interactions with people.
Totally. So if those calculations are right, then basically that is saving about 2 to 3 officers being available every single month.
Right.
That's the amount of time they would have spent transcribing, and now they can do other things in our community.
Yeah, or because we're growing, it's allowing us not to have had to hire to replace an officer yet. And it works both ways. Yes, it frees them to do real policing instead of stenography, but it also lets us look at it from a growth point of view in our community, because we know we're growing, that this is because we added these work-saving devices, we can also then use our police officers as police officers to be out there serving the public. So I think the chief would agree that at some point you have to add officers by growth in our community. We'll continue to do that too. But this gave us a bit of a break on how can we work on keeping police officers out on Main Street or in their car in one of our subdivisions.
Absolutely. We have to be cost effective, like I said, and maybe this is another opportunity to, we've civilianized, I think, 4 or 5 positions in our service that were, positioned by uniformed police officers, and we civilianized those positions, and we've saved way north of $300,000. And I mean, that's 3 or 4 police officers right there. Just through civilianization in the past, I think, over the past 3 years, Mayor, I think it's what it was. I think we've maxed out on every position that we can civilianize here. But again, it's just another example of what we do here daily that, the public, and maybe we need to, probably pump ourselves up a little more often, what we do internally to try and keep the cost of policing down.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chief. Now, one final question for you before you head off, and I want to ask as a community member, and for our viewers, what can we advocate for that will help people experiencing mental health and addictions in our community to better serve them? Who can we talk to? What can we do to help make our community a better place for the people that are experiencing those issues?
Well, I mean, I think the mayor and I have touched on a number of people that our community can speak with, and you can even write letters. I can tell you that across the province, this seems to be picking up steam right now, is that a number of municipalities are sending letters to the provincial government. I've seen, through the newsletters and correspondence that I receive, letters being sent, from different municipalities about the catch and release issue. And about mental health and addictions. And that's what we need to do. Our municipalities are starting to see that we got to start speaking louder. We've been speaking loud, but we need to start speaking louder. And we need to get local leaders definitely speaking louder in our community, but we also need the support, like I said earlier, from everyone in our community as well. There was a gentleman that kind of lives down near the courthouse there a few months ago. He did a petition. That was, he came in, I know he spoke with me, he spoke with the mayor, and it was great what he had written, and it was a number of people that signed it. I know it was taken forward by MPP Gurick at the time. That's what we need to keep doing. And I know it can be frustrating, absolutely, that, you send that petition off, or you send a letter off, or the mayor and I, we speak with someone at the provincial level, and we don't hear anything back, or we don't get the answers that we are looking for. Absolutely. You know what? We've been doing that for the past 4 or 5 years together, the mayor and I, but we don't give up. And that's what I say to you as well, and people that are watching. Don't give up. We'll be professional, respectful, and always take the high road, of course, but we will not give up. And I know the mayor will not, and I know I'm not. So we are passionate about our community. We are passionate about the issues impacting our community. And we're going to keep the foot on the gas to get attention. Be the squeaky wheel for sure.
Thank you, Chief.
Perfect. Chief, thank you. You've stayed longer than we demanded of you, and way to go. I think these are great questions. People of St. Thomas do need to hear them, and they don't get a chance to often. But you know what? Funny enough, Chief, I know you do this. Whether it's coffee with the chief at the market or coffee with the chief at one of our local Tim Hortons. I know that you and the deputy chief are out often sharing what we're attempting to do. Do we all? You just said it. Do we always win? Nope, but I won't give up. We'll ask the next minister. We'll do the next thing because we've won so many times, and we've got so many good things happening. We're seeing what happens when we as a city do this, and when you police that way, how much better it is. So we'll keep cheering you on, and we'll keep working together to make it happen.
Well, we just got to look quickly. We just got to look back to where we were 3-4 years ago and where we are now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Things have improved.
I love it, Chief. Thank you for joining us tonight, and we'll have you on again in the future. There's so many questions we didn't get a chance to answer, but I think I'll just come out to coffee with the chief at the market and heckle you from there. I think it's probably just as easy. Brayton's there too; he can help. So yeah,
Absolutely.
Thank you both again, and thank you to our viewers, and thank you for asking the questions. Communication and education is so important, and so I thank everyone involved this evening. Take care.
All right. Take care. Cheers, Chief.
thanks.
Wow, that was awesome.
Well, we should, that is another one we'll need to repeat. We have a few guests we have to have back because they did quite well when they're on. But I think you're going to hear a pretty good series of initiatives for our downtown for this summer too. And with the chief, we talked a bit about that at the start of the chief on tonight.
Mm-hmm.
We'll come back with more of that too as we bring it, whether it's the special constables or street cleanup or other things that we're doing. But that took pretty much an hour of our time to get to that point with the chief. So the fact that we could keep him for that long, thank you, Chief Herridge, and it was well informative for our guests. Graydon, what else do we want to cover tonight? I want to talk about city cleanup. With the snow we had last weekend, it slowed down a number of groups that were going out to do city cleanup. We've seen a number of groups at the mayor's office this week. Bringing in their forms or just picking up their supplies, gloves and trash bags and such. We want you to continue to do that. Heather loves the visits at the mayor's office. And so please, we really said, although Earth Day is this Friday, and I think if you look hard, you may even see the mayor out picking up litter this Friday. But provided the weather's a little better than it's been. But we want you to continue in community groups, family groups, service club groups, everything else for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Let's help St. Thomas recover from a long winter. And we thought if we let the snow go away, it'll be a little easier to find the litter. So that's one we wanted to talk about during Earth Week also. So we'll, thank you for sharing that. We've had just a great start to this. How many people are anxious to get out there with their cleanup groups, and many of them have said, we did this for years leading up to 2 years ago, and we haven't been able to join. So perfect. What else have you got that's coming up this week? I know there was a business
job fair.
Pardon?
Job fair.
Job fair tomorrow. Absolutely. Huge job fair at Elgin Center tomorrow. We're expecting thousands, so let's hope that's the case. There is over 50 employers there looking for you, the employer, and we're being so special about it. You get to get there for free. The buses are free from noon till 6 tomorrow. The job fair runs from 1 till 5, so we'll get you there. We'll get you home for free, St. Thomas Transit. If you don't ride the bus regularly, here's your chance to try our DRT system or our regular run. And the job fair is at Elgin Center tomorrow between 1 and 5. Please get out there with your resume. Bring plenty. There's a number of employers out there who will be happy to take your resume and interview you on the spot, and others who will simply get your resume and call you in the next short period of time. We have a low unemployment rate at the moment. We have many employers looking for your help. So if you're somebody who's looking for a job, tomorrow's your day. let's get out there and the city runs better, the city grows better if all the employers have all the employees that they need to. So we're counting on you helping us out.
Absolutely. I want to mention also drinking habits. We've mentioned it on the various episodes. It's coming up at the Princess Ave Playhouse. It's a phenomenal performance. The details will be in the chat. I'm going to put that in there. We're going to mention it more as we lead up to the actual date on which they will go live, which is in June.
We've talked about a number of city things, but was there any questions in the chat today that we haven't answered that we need to?
I think we covered the majority of the questions, and then I want to give a shout out to Brett and Tim for helping with the questions there. I was kind of going through as you and the chief were talking right at the beginning, compiling questions and taking notes, and yeah.
Well, we're going to give you a full mayor's update next Wednesday of questions for the mayor, of questions of what's happening in the city. We don't have a council next Monday night, so we'll review what's happened at the last couple of councils for next week too, in case you have questions from that too. And we'll be able to give you a more of a mayor's forum next week. I'll be the guest, and Graydon can do the interviewing. I think that'll work. Maybe we'll visit Caps Off again. I'm not sure.
It'd be lovely. I would love that because it's been a big. I've been doing a lot of work. I like it being at Caps Off. It's phenomenal. But I'm biased.
Right.
And you know what's really funny, Mayor Joe, is that like since we did those couple shows, I've been getting these posts in social media about programs on how to drink less. And I think there's a correlation
there. Yeah.
But I think it's a testament to how social media doesn't necessarily pick up on what's really happening, because like I'll go to Caps Off on the Wednesday and then I won't drink the rest of the week, and then I'll go there. But because I'm on social media and they see, I guess maybe they have like analyzers, they see a beer glass, and they're just like, oh.
One of our favorite beverages makes them think that's how we live our lives, right? The mayor gets up in the morning, goes to work, and does other things too. But 6:30 on Wednesday nights, we do Mayor's Update. And hey, we'll visit your business if you ask us. We don't have to go there, but we like going there. It's very close to City Hall, so I can, at the last minute, show up at Caps Off. So perfect.
One other thing we should mention is we teased it, we didn't mention it, and it broke on the weekend, is the new animal shelter.
Oh, let's just talk about that. Sarah Tier from 1Password Park, or 1Password, the company, has donated $1 million towards our animal shelter. I don't know, 5 years ago, before I became mayor, we put some money aside, about $200,000, to renovate our animal shelter. And some of the animal groups said, well, we don't like the old shelter. We really would like to do better. And so the first council that I was mayor of said, okay, let's take it up to 300,000 from a renovation, or up to 400,000 renovation. And in each type, we said we'd like to build a new one. So we sent out, we looked for a site. So this week we both approved the site, which is the along Southdale Road by Bill Martin Parkway. So between Bill Martin Parkway and Fairview, there's a beautiful stretch that used to be a soccer field. Of course, with 1Password Park, thank you very much again to 1Password. 1Password Park's soccer fields, we can turn that area into our animal shelter building and an off-leash dog park also, so which would give us one in the north, one in the south, and one in the east, or in the west. So it gives us a very good spread of that. But an up-to-date, full-service dog service or pet service center. So thank you so much. When you send people out the fundraising, it does, and we don't really hear the results, and then all of a sudden somebody gives us enough to do the whole project. Look, thank you. We share that animal shelter with neighboring communities of Southwold and Central Elgin and Malahide also. So they'll also be helping us out do this. So on Monday night, we approved getting an architect so we can get the cost down as to how much it will be to build that shelter that we want, and approve the land from the city. So the land, we approved that will be the site, and it's land from the city, and so we can use it. So we're going to move this as fast as we can. We really would like to do this in 2022. and we're hoping that is possible to at least get there. It was a piece of the council's strategic plan. One of the items we said we wanted to do as this council, and when COVID got in the way, it made it really hard for us to fundraise. And I get it. I mean, it was impossible for people to be going out and doing that. So thank you. One great fundraiser made it possible for us to meet this commitment before we elect a new council this fall and come back. But it will be a permanent site now. We'll have a beautiful animal shelter, and we thank all involved. So, perfect. So that's one of the things off council, but we'll continue to talk about that as it comes back from the architect. What will it look like? How can we, what's happening next? But I think we can say for sure, 100%, it's happening, folks. We're going to build it.
Fantastic. All right. On that positive note, let's wrap things up and say thanks to all our viewers. Thanks to our sponsors. Mayor Joe, thank you for joining us.
It was great. Thank Chief Herridge again, too.
Absolutely.
Very informative for what our police services is doing. And he didn't talk about giving anybody a ticket. We talked about how we can better help our city become a better place. So thanks, Chief Herridge, and we will have you back. Thanks.
Cheers.
Great.
Good night, everyone.
Week, 30.